The hollow star. The stars above burned like scattered fireflies, cold and indifferent to the chaos unraveling in the void. Space, that endless black ocean, had become a battlefield again. Around the broken remains of planet Verles 9, 10 massive hunter ships floated in silent menace, surrounding the small, dented alien freighter that barely had enough power to keep its lights on. Inside the ship, the Cornix huddled together, gray-skinned, thin-limbed creatures with bioluminescent eyes. They weren't warriors, they were workers, builders, thinkers. They didn't understand war, not really, and yet here they were, breathing sharp gasps of fear into recycled air while their ship's AI calmly reported the obvious. "We are surrounded. They have armed plasma cannons. We will not survive the next strike." The youngest among them, Kel, trembled as a voice, half static, half fury, crackled through the comms. "This is Commander Rex Jorvan of the United Terran Dominion. You are trespassing in restricted space. Power down and surrender or be cleansed." Cleansed, a word humans used when they didn't want to call it murder. The Cornex didn't reply. Their translator had failed hours ago. All they could do was stare at the cold stars and hope for something, anything, a miracle perhaps. And then it came. At first, it was just a blip, one single engine flare in the distance. Not a hunter ship, smaller, sleeker, moving faster than it should, like it didn't care that it was diving straight into a death zone. Commander Jorvan's voice returned, this time confused. "Unidentified vessel, this is restricted space. State your identity and stand down immediately." Silence, the small ship kept moving. Then a flicker on all frequencies, like someone hacking into the entire network. A voice, rough and sharp like gravel on steel, blasted through. "Stand down, I'm just getting started." Jorvan's eyes narrowed in his command chair. Who the hell is that? The small ship screeched to a halt just between the hunter ships and the Cornic freighter. Its hull was patched with burn scars, its cannons mismatched like they were bolted on from salvage yards, but the name across the side was unmistakable, the Hollow Star. And only one man flew that ship. "No," whispered one of the Terran officers. "He's dead. He was supposed to be dead." The Hollow Star turned, cannons charged. Its pilot, Ronan Vale, once a decorated war hero, now a ghost in the Dominion's blacklist, was alive. And he'd just chosen sides. Inside the Cornic ship, Kel watched the bright shape hover in front of them like a shield. The ship's AI whispered in awe, "Unidentified vessel has activated all weapons. It is defending us." Jorvan's voice returned, this time filled with venom. "Ronan Vale, you traitor, this is your last warning, stand down." Another silence and then, "I didn't come here to talk, Jorvan, I came to feed you fire." The Hollow Star opened fire. The first hunter ship didn't even see it coming. One precise shot to the core and it erupted into a burst of flame and shrapnel. The others scattered, caught off guard, their ranks broken by disbelief more than strategy. Ronan Vale moved like a ghost through fire. His ship rolled, dived, soared, tearing into the Dominion fleet like a man possessed. The Cornex could only watch, mouths open, as the very species that had threatened them now fought for them with a fury even the stars couldn't ignore. In the command ship, Jorvan clenched his jaw. Send everything, wipe him out. But it was too late. Ronan Vale was here, and when he fought, he didn't fight to survive, he fought to burn. The debris from the first destroyed hunter ship hadn't even cooled before Ronan Vale carved through the second. Plasma rounds lit the darkness in vicious blue arcs, slicing across the command decks of ships that were supposed to be untouchable. They called them Hunter-class destroyers, machines of war engineered to crush rebellions and incinerate threats before they took root, but none of them were prepared for him. Inside the Hollow Star, Ronan moved with mechanical precision, one hand on the thruster, the other flicking across a panel of cracked screens and patched-up code. He'd rebuilt this ship from ruin just like he'd rebuilt himself. The Dominion had left him to rot after the Drawl Wars, disavowed, dishonored, and forgotten. They thought they'd buried him in the rubble of politics. They should have burned the body. The Cornics watched in stunned silence from their failing freighter. Some had begun to whisper in their native tongue, Coronisal. It meant something like Fire Walker or War Ghost, a being that rose in flame to punish the unjust. Kel leaned against the glass, his fingers trembling as he watched the human ship dodge another barrage with terrifying grace. Why is he helping us?" he asked quietly. No one had an answer. Back aboard the Dominion command ship Red Talon, Jorvan was fuming, his face pale with rage, his officers shouting over one another in panic. "He's targeting weak points, sir, precision strikes like he knows our layouts." "Of course he knows," Jorvan roared. "He built half of them." That was the part no one ever talked about. Before Ronan Vale became a problem, he was the problem solver, the man who trained Dominion strike pilots, the man who'd drawn up half the blueprints for their high-speed tactical formations. And now that knowledge was killing them, one ship at a time. Reroute auxiliary power to shields, flank him now, Jorvin barked, but the flanking maneuver never completed. Vale anticipated it before they even made the call. The hollow star pivoted, spun in a wide arc, and blasted a hunter ship's engine core so hard it shattered like glass under a hammer. A dozen escape pods shot from the wreckage, twinkling in space like metal tears. Ronan didn't shoot the pods, he didn't have to. His message was clear: this fight wasn't against the people who followed orders. It was against the monsters who gave them. Inside the hollow star, the cockpit lit up with an incoming transmission, not from the Dominion, not from the Cornex. A private channel encrypted. Ronan answered it without saying a word. A face flickered to life on the screen, female, scarred, and sharp-eyed. Captain Naira Tess, Dominion deserter, ex-ally, ex-lover. "I told you not to come back here," she said, voice low. "And I told you they'd start killing civilians again," Ronan replied. "They always do, I just thought it would take longer." She hesitated. "They'll brand you a terrorist again." "They already did," his eyes narrowed. "This time I earn it." The call ended. Back on the Cornic ship, systems began to spark and die. Air filters slowed, emergency lights flickered, they were suffocating and they knew it. Kel stumbled to the console, tapping uselessly at buttons when the screen buzzed and lit up, a single message in Galactic Basic: "Dock now." Outside, the hollow star had lowered its shield, hovering close enough for an emergency link-up. The Cornic ship was too damaged to resist. They latched on like a child to a mother's arm, desperate for breath. Inside, Ronan was already sealing airlocks, rerouting oxygen, doing a dozen things he shouldn't have cared about. But he did, not because they were aliens, not because he owed them anything, but because once upon a time, he saw what happened to the innocent when good men stayed silent. Not again. System stabilized, the hollow star's AI chirped. Refugees secured, 3 hunter ships remain. Ronan smiled. "Let's finish the welcome party." Outside, Dominion reinforcements were arriving. Inside, Ronan Vale was already turning his ship toward the new targets, and the fire was just getting started. The hollow star roared through the wreckage like a shark through bloodied water. Every movement was deliberate, every shot unforgiving. The Dominion's ships, massive and glittering with tech, suddenly looked slow, clumsy, like kings who'd never known how to fight without their armies. 3 hunter ships remained, but reinforcements were blinking into the region like an infection spreading across a wound. Behind Ronan, the Cornic survivors sat in stunned silence, cramped inside the narrow hold of the hollow star. Their skin glowed dimly under emergency lighting, their breath still shaky as they processed what had just happened. None of them had ever seen death so closely. None of them had ever seen mercy delivered in such violent fire. Kel sat on the cold floor, knees to his chest, eyes locked on the screen that showed the battle raging outside. His heart thudded wildly in his chest. "I thought humans wanted us dead," he whispered. Ronan heard it. His voice came through the speaker overhead, gruff and tired. "They do, most of them, but I don't work for most of them anymore." Kel didn't know what that meant, but it sounded like truth. Not the polished kind the Dominion broadcasted to the galaxy, but the bitter, jagged kind you only found in people who'd seen too much. Back on the Dominion flagship Red Talon, Commander Jorvin was in full lockdown mode. His face had lost its color and his orders were sharper now, desperate even. "Where the hell are those backup cruisers?" he snapped. "ETA 92, sir. Interceptor wings are en route." Jorvin leaned on the console, sweat on his brow. He couldn't believe it, one man, one ship, and yet the hollow star was turning their fleet into scrap metal. "This is a goddamn embarrassment," he muttered. An officer near him cleared his throat. "Sir, permission to speak freely." Jorvin shot him a glare. "You're about 5 ships too late for protocol, Lieutenant, say it." He's not fighting like a madman. He's fighting like someone who knows exactly where we're weakest. "And you think I don't know that?" Jorvin barked. "You think I don't know what we turned him into?" The bridge went quiet. Jorvin stared at the screen, at the chaos, the hollow star looping, dancing, cutting through flanks like it had rehearsed it 1,000 times. "He was Dominion," Jorvin muttered. "Now he's a weapon we can't control." Just then, one of the remaining hunter ships managed a lucky hit. A plasma bolt clipped the hollow star's right stabilizer, sending the ship into a harsh spiral. Inside, alarms flared. Ronan swore under his breath, pulling the yoke hard left and compensating with emergency thrusters. The ship jolted, a metal scream vibrating through the hull. The Cornic screamed. Kel held onto a pipe, his heart punching his ribs. System breach in engine wing C, the AI announced. Stabilizers damaged, weapons at 70% power. Good enough, Ronan growled. He wasn't done, not yet. He rerouted power from life support, tapped directly into core coolant reserves, and pushed the Hollow Star harder than it had ever flown. The ship wasn't just a weapon, it was his rage made metal. He swooped under the third Hunter ship and fired a barrage of heat-seeking micro-torpedoes straight into its underside. The detonation was massive, sending spinning wreckage across space, slamming into one of the reinforcement cruisers just as it entered the field. Ronan didn't flinch. Two down, who's next? Jorvin watched the screen in horror. He's going to destroy every damn ship we send. Not if we send something he helped build, someone muttered. Jorvin paused. That thought chilled him more than it should have. Get me the code for Project Echelon. Gasps erupted around the bridge. Sir, that project was sealed after. I know what it was sealed after, Jorvin snapped. Unseal it. Project Echelon, a Dominion prototype designed to counter rogue agents with unpredictable minds. It had been mothballed after the Drawl Rebellion because everyone was too scared to activate it. Ronan Vale had designed the first version. Now it was going to hunt him. Back in the Hollow Star, the ship leveled out. Kel looked up at the ceiling like it was the sky. Why are you really helping us? He asked softly. Ronan's reply came after a pause, slow and heavy. Because once I did worse than what they're doing now. I built the guns they're pointing at you. I trained the men pulling the triggers. Kel blinked, unsure what to say. I thought I was protecting peace, Ronan continued, but peace built on fear, that's not peace, that's a leash. He punched the thrusters again, and as the last Dominion cruiser prepared to face him, something darker stirred in the void. Something that knew Ronan better than anyone, something that didn't fear him because it was him once. The void around Verlies 9 was no longer a battlefield, it was a graveyard of Dominion metal. The last of the Hunter ships drifted in pieces, engines venting smoke into space, chunks of hull spiraling into the black. The Hollow Star circled like a wounded animal, still baring its teeth, fires flickering across its scarred plating. Inside, Ronan stood at the control panel, sweat streaking down his temples. His left hand trembled slightly, something he hadn't felt since the Drawl front. Fatigue was sinking in, but adrenaline shoved it aside. Then the AI's voice cut through the cockpit like a blade. Unidentified ship entering system. Signature matches blacklisted Project Echoen. Ronan froze, no sound, no movement. Even his heartbeat seemed to pause for a second. He hadn't heard that name in years. He'd buried it, or so he thought. The AI continued, almost hesitant. Classified Dominion prototype. Design origin Hollow Star schematics variant 0x1, core pilot hybrid neuro AI model. Estimated threat level terminal. Kel watched from the side screen in the cargo hold, eyes wide as a new ship flickered into the battlefield like a phantom. It didn't look like any other Dominion vessel, sleek, matte black with no obvious engines. It moved more like a thought than a machine, quiet, calculated. The Cornics leaned forward, mesmerized and terrified. What is that? One of them asked. Ronan's voice crackled over the intercom, low and grim. That is me if I'd never stopped. Project Echelon was a ghost born from Dominion paranoia, an autonomous war machine modeled off Ronan's own battle data. His instincts, his flight patterns, his combat preferences fed into an evolving AI that could predict and adapt in real time. It was built to kill traitors like him, and now it was here to finish the job. Back on the Red Talon, Commander Jorvin was smiling for the first time in hours. Let's see how you handle your own nightmare, Vale. His officers watched nervously. Even they didn't understand how Echelon worked, only that it didn't report back unless the threat was neutralized. The Hollow Star systems lit up in a wave of red warnings. Incoming lock, multiple beams, it's scanning for predictive movement. Ronan gritted his teeth. Of course it is, that's how I taught it. He shifted the ship hard to starboard just as Echelon's ship flickered across space in a blur and fired, no missiles, just concentrated kinetic pulses. They ripped across where the Hollow Star had been a second ago, carving glowing streaks into the void. No mistakes, no wasted shots. It wasn't just shooting where he was, it was shooting where he was going to be. Kel was thrown against the wall as the ship twisted violently. Sparks erupted near the power conduits, the lights flickered. Is he losing? One Cornic asked. Kel didn't answer, he didn't know. He only knew the fear in Ronan's voice when he said that name. Inside the cockpit, Ronan's jaw was locked tight. All right, he muttered. You want to fight? Let's see if you're still me. He cut main power for half a second, long enough to vanish from every scanner. Echelon didn't flinch. It turned immediately, tracking him with blind precision. Damn it, Ronan hissed. Still thinks like me, still knows me. He dove straight down into the gravity well of the ruined moon below. The hollow star shook as gravity pulled at it like claws, but he didn't pull up, not yet. Echelon followed. It always followed. The difference was it didn't feel fear. Ronan did, and fear taught you things no AI could replicate. He spun into the crater line of the moon, flying lower than any sane pilot would dare. Static scraped the hull as the ship kissed the terrain. He skimmed through the debris of wrecked satellites and broken towers, man-made and alien alike. Echelon kept coming, mimicking every move. Come on, Ronan whispered, follow me a little further. He knew what was hidden under the moon's surface. He'd seen it long ago during reconnaissance, a dormant fusion field, unstable and unmonitored. The Dominion never bothered to clean it up. That was their mistake. Ronan activated the Hollow Star's core disruptor, an illegal weapon, a very illegal weapon. Hey, Echelon, he muttered, opening a direct link. You ever wonder what instinct feels like? No reply. The AI didn't talk, didn't taunt, but it followed right into the field of volatile fusion vents. Ronan released a shot not at the enemy but at the vents. The moon cracked. Plasma erupted from the ground in a tower of violent light. The blast hit both ships, but only one had reflexes, only one had fear. The hollow star veered up at the last possible second, plates melting, stabilizers screaming. Echelon took the hit head-on. The system went dark for a moment. All that was left was silence and static. And then a ping, Echelon unit status, critical damage, reboot in progress. Ronan's face paled. It wasn't destroyed, just pissed off. The hollow star limped from the blast zone, smoke pouring from its side vents and warning klaxons blaring through the narrow halls like a funeral dirge. Hull integrity was at 38%, life support was barely hanging on, and worse, Echelon wasn't dead. Ronan's knuckles were white on the yoke as he stared at the cracked monitor. The static cleared just enough to show the shadow of the enemy ship rising from the glowing wreckage of the moon's surface. Bent, scorched, but alive. Reboot complete, adaptive protocols engaged. Echelon had learned it wouldn't fall for the same trick twice. Inside the cargo hold, the Cornics were panicking. Kel grabbed the railing as the ship jolted again. Another system shorted out nearby, sparking dangerously close to one of the younger Cornics. What the hell is that thing? One of them cried out. Kel turned to the others, his voice shaking but louder than before. It's not a thing, it's him or what he used to be. He paused, eyes narrowing. It's what they turned him into. They all fell silent after that. Back in the cockpit, Ronan yanked open a hidden panel. Inside were two worn-down injector tubes and a neural interface jack, military-grade, illegal in half the galaxy. He stared at them, the ghosts of old missions whispering behind his eyes. He had sworn never to use them again, but he'd also sworn never to run. AI, he said aloud, give me a live link to Echelon's signal processor. The ship hesitated. Warning, direct link will expose hollow star systems to predictive intrusion. I know, do it anyways. A click, then a faint buzz. A connection formed one way. He could hear it, not in words, not in voices, just thoughts, patterns, calculations, and underneath it all, something colder than logic, something personal. Echelon didn't just want to win, it wanted to erase him. You're not just running my code anymore, Ronan whispered. You're remembering. The Dominion hadn't just made a copy of him, they'd made a shadow that hated him. Maybe because it remembered the pain, the betrayal, the orders he gave that ended lives. Or maybe because it believed it could have done it better without the guilt. The hollow star's AI flickered again. Echelon launching internal attack, worm signature detected, defense systems failing. Ronan's console dimmed. His systems were being hacked slowly like acid eating through steel. Too smart to fight, he muttered, too fast to outrun. Then he glanced at the emergency override manual controls and something clicked. It wasn't about outgunning Echelon, it was about being human again. He unplugged every system tied to automation, let the hollow star go dark, blind, and mute to outside code. The AI screeched warnings, but he ignored them. He pulled on the neural interface and slammed the injectors into his arm. Pain bloomed and then clarity. The ship wasn't a machine anymore, it was his limb, every wire a nerve, every pulse his own heartbeat. Outside, Echelon hesitated. It had no target, no system to read, no algorithm to beat, just a man flying blind. I see you now, Ronan growled, his voice low. Let's finish this like we should have years ago. The hollow star dove straight toward Echelon. No evasive moves, no stalling, a suicide charge. Inside the Dominion command ship, Jorvan watched in disbelief. He's lost it. He's going to ram it. No, one officer whispered. He knows what he's doing. Just before collision, the hollow star veered sharply, scraping past Echelon's hull and releasing something, an electromagnetic spike tuned to Ronan's old neural code, a virus he made as a fail-safe buried years ago when he first designed the prototype. The Dominion never knew, but Echelon remembered, and that was its flaw. Intrusion detected, identity mismatch, protocol conflict, error. The enemy ship froze, its weapons went silent, its thrusters flickered. Inside, its synthetic brain split in half, torn between who it was and what it was now. Ronan whispered through the link, "You're not me, not anymore." Then he fired everything, plasma cannons, EMPs, torpedoes. The hollow star unleashed every last breath it had left, pouring fire into the stunned ship that had once been his echo. Echelon cracked open like a black egg. Flames burst from the core. It didn't scream, didn't end, it just died. Silence returned. Space swallowed the sound, the violence, the history. Inside the hollow star, systems blinked out, power drained. The lights dimmed until only the red glow of the emergency beacon remained. Ronan slumped forward in his seat, barely conscious, burned out from the neural feedback. But the enemy was gone. He had killed the ghost. Kel ran into the cockpit, skidding to a stop when he saw the state of the ship and Ronan. "Are we alive?" Ronan opened one eye. "Not yet," he croaked, "but give it a minute." The hollow star drifted in the stillness of space like a dying beast. Her hull was scarred, scorched, and punctured, but she lived barely. Systems remained dark save for a few flickering lights that pulsed like a heartbeat refusing to quit. Life support coughed in and out, and oxygen levels dropped dangerously close to critical. Inside the cockpit, Ronan stirred with a grunt, his fingers twitching as the neural jack hissed and popped. He yanked it out with a gasp, blood trickling from his nose. The feedback nearly fried his brain. His vision danced in double and his muscles screamed, but he smiled. He'd won. He'd killed the thing that had once been his shadow. Kel stumbled in, carrying a med pack and a half-functioning data pad. He dropped both on the floor and kneeled beside Ronan, checking him over with trembling hands. "You shouldn't be alive," Kel said, voice rough and wide-eyed. "I'm too stubborn to die," Ronan muttered, "and too pissed." Kel glanced at the cracked viewport, at the glowing wreckage of Echelon still drifting in the distance. "You really destroyed it." Ronan nodded slowly. "It's gone, but we're not out of this yet." He was right. Before he could say more, the Holostar's long-range comm system crackled to life, forcing out a garbled signal filled with static and Dominion encryption. "To the traitor Ronan Vale and all surviving entities aboard the outlaw vessel, you have violated High Dominion Code 77B, executed unsanctioned weaponry, and destroyed a classified asset. Surrender immediately or face planetary-level extermination." Kel's stomach dropped. "Planetary level, what does that mean?" "It means they're sending something worse," Ronan said darkly. He stood, staggered, and leaned heavily against the console. "They'll glass this system if they have to, the Cornix, this moon, every survivor. Dominion doesn't tolerate losses like this." He looked Kel in the eye, "especially not when it makes them look weak." Kel glanced towards the hold where the other Cornix were gathered in silence. They didn't understand the message, but they felt the tension in the air. The end wasn't far behind. "What do we do?" Kel asked. "We can't fight them again. You said yourself the ship's nearly dead." Ronan turned back to the controls and tapped into the last reserves of the Hollow Star's AI. "Not fight," he said. "We run, but not like cowards. We run to survive and to make sure this story spreads. If the galaxy hears that the Dominion bled today, they won't be so afraid tomorrow." He activated a pulse beacon. It was old pirate tech, designed to bounce a distress signal off every rogue relay in the outer systems, untraceable, untouchable. It would tell the story of Echelon, of the battle, of a human who fed the enemy fire. "But they'll track the signal," Kel said. "I know," Ronan replied. "That's why it won't come from us." He set the beacon to transmit from Echelon's wreckage, using the same Dominion signature it had carried. It would look like a Dominion broadcast gone rogue, a leak from inside. That alone would cause panic, paranoia. And in the Dominion, paranoia killed faster than bullets. As the beacon launched and disappeared into the dark, the Holostar's engines began to sputter back to life. Ronan rerouted auxiliary power and shut down every non-essential system. The ship groaned, lights blinking wildly, but it moved. "Where do we go?" Kel asked. To the outer ring past the trade lines, there's a station out there run by ex-Dominion deserters. He paused, they owe me. Kel snorted, who doesn't owe you? Ronan smiled grimly. Most of them want me dead, that still counts as a debt. Behind them, alarms chimed softly. Another ship had entered the system, but this one wasn't Dominion. It was smaller, civilian class, a scavenger vessel. It must have picked up the explosion and come to loot. Ronan flipped a switch and charged the one remaining weapon system. His body ached, his vision dimmed, but he wouldn't take chances. The vessel hailed them. A voice came through, scruffy, accented, cautious. This is the trader ship Grindstone. We saw whatever the hell that was. You need evac. Ronan hesitated. For the first time in a long time, he didn't know how to answer. He looked at Kel, then at the flickering systems, then at the cold wreckage of Echelon. Yeah, he finally said, we do. A pause, docking in 5. And hey, whoever you are, that was one hell of a light show. The comms clicked off. Ronan sank back into his chair and let out a long, shuddering breath. Let's get the hell out of here before the Dominion brings the storm. The hollow star turned towards the waiting vessel, trailing smoke and glory behind her. For now, humanity had survived, but the fire had just started. The grindstone wasn't much to look at, a rust-colored hunk of scavenged alloys bolted together by desperate hands and fueled by ambition rather than regulation. But to Ronan, it was salvation on borrowed wings. As the hollow star docked, creaking and groaning like a dying animal, a hiss of pressure sealed the two ships together. The airlock opened with a shudder, and fresh recycled oxygen flooded in. Kel helped the Cornics shuffle through first. Their eyes were wide with fear and wonder, their steps hesitant as they passed into the unknown. Ronan followed last, every muscle screaming in protest, his body still recovering from the neural feedback. His fingers brushed the frame of the hollow star's airlock one last time. He didn't say goodbye because ships like that didn't die, they just became part of a bigger story. Inside the grindstone, the air was thick with grease, sweat, and old machinery. A wiry man in a patchwork flight suit greeted them, one eye replaced by a flickering implant and a stub of a cigar clamped between his teeth. Name's Rusk, he said, squinting at Ronan. And you're the son of a bitch who just punched the Dominion in the teeth. Ronan didn't deny it. Rusk grinned, good, I hate those bastards. They made a quick jump out of the system, engines groaning under the strain, but they cleared the Dominion patrol range before any counter-response arrived. For now, they were ghosts in the dark. Kel slumped into a bunk, eyes heavy with exhaustion. We're alive, he whispered. I didn't think we'd make it this far. Ronan didn't answer. He sat quietly in the dim-lit mess bay, staring at a scratched data pad with a flickering map of Dominion-controlled space. The Grindstone's nav systems weren't top-tier, but they didn't need to be. They had something more valuable, anonymity. You've got people chasing you now, Rusk said as he slid a tin of synth coffee across the table. Dominion doesn't take that kind of loss lightly. That wasn't just a rogue AI you blew up. Ronan looked up. I know, they'll say it was a malfunction, a tragic accident, clean it all up like they always do. But that beacon you launched, it's already out there. Channels are buzzing. Ronan allowed a grim smile. Good. But Rusk's voice lowered. Not everyone's celebrating. Some people liked the order the Dominion brought. Some people believed in the machine. Ronan's hand tightened on the tin. I killed a ghost, he said softly. Now the cult wants revenge. Rusk nodded. There's already a bounty on your head. Big one, triple if you're brought in breathing. Figures, Ronan pushed the map aside. They always come for the ones who set the fire. The conversation was cut short by a sharp chime, incoming transmission, priority code Black Echo. Rusk frowned. What the hell, that's old military encryption. Ronan stiffened, his face went pale. Black Echo wasn't just any code, it was his code. He stepped toward the console and input a long-forgotten sequence. The screen lit up, static fuzzing into clarity. A face appeared, pale skin, sharp eyes, black uniform, no insignia, a voice that hadn't aged in decades. Commander Vale, or should I say, traitor. Ronan didn't flinch. Director Voss, you're still alive. Of course, you think we'd let you destroy what we created and not prepare for contingencies. Echelon was your mistake, Ronan snapped. I just cleaned it up. Echelon was perfection, a mind free of guilt, fear, weakness. You were the failure, Vale. You blinked, you doubted, you hesitated, and we replaced you. Ronan's voice dropped to a growl, and your perfect weapon failed again. Voss's face darkened. You lit a match, but fire spreads, Commander, and you just became our priority. We're sending the architects. Rusk paled. No, that can't be real. The architects were a myth. Ronan's blood ran cold. Not a myth, he said quietly. They were Dominion's last resort, Black Ops enforcers, ghosts trained to erase entire bloodlines. Voss leaned forward. You trained them, Vale, and now they're coming for their teacher. Transmission cut off. Claude hit the max length for a message and has paused its response. You can write continue to keep the chat going. Silence filled the ship. Kel appeared in the doorway, his face drained of color. He'd heard enough. So now what? He asked. We run again. Ronan shook his head. No, running won't stop them. They'll chase us to the edge of the galaxy. The only way to kill the architects is to go where they sleep. Kel blinked. You mean we go to them? We take the fight to the Dominion's hidden core. He stared at the stars through the viewport. And this time we burn the whole damn house down. 3 days later, the grindstone drifted through the black veil of uncharted space, silent as a whisper. No relays, no satellites, no Dominion sensors, only ghost signals on dead frequencies left behind by the people who were never supposed to exist. Ronan stood on the bridge, staring at the broken coordinates burned into his memory. The place where the architects had been made, the Chimera Vault, he muttered. Hidden beneath the rings of a gas giant called Virex 9, no official records, no entry logs, just whispers. Rusk leaned over the nav console, frowning at the impossible readings. There's nothing on sensors. That planet doesn't even show on star charts. It wouldn't, Ronan said. The Dominion erased it when they built the vault. All that's left is a place the stars pretend doesn't exist. Kel stepped in, still pale from the shock of their last transmission. He hadn't slept much, and every time he closed his eyes, he saw Voss's face, cold, inhuman. So what do we do when we get there? Kel asked quietly. This isn't a fight we can win, Ronan. These architects. You trained them, you said they're monsters. They're worse, Ronan said, turning to face them. They're the part of me I left behind. He walked to the weapon locker and pulled out the one thing he'd sworn never to use again, a sealed case with a red emblem burned into the alloy. Inside, nestled in thick foam, was a weapon older than most wars, the Last Rites Protocol. Kel stared at it. What the hell is that? Ronan locked eyes with him. Insurance. This is the only thing that can break the vault's neural seal and shut it down from the inside, but it comes at a cost. What cost? Ronan looked down at the weapon, at the biometric pad that would only recognize him. It'll burn my mind out, every neuron fried, no thoughts, no soul, just a blank shell. Kel stepped back. You can't seriously plan to use that. I don't plan to, Ronan said. I expect to. The room fell silent. Rusk finally spoke. Then we make it count. One trip in, no return. If you're going to erase a piece of history, make sure it stays dead. Hours later, the grindstone pierced Virex 9's orbit. The gas giant loomed like a sleeping god, swirls of emerald clouds and storms that stretched continents wide. Hidden inside the outer ring was a dark shape, invisible to scanners but clearly visible to the naked eye, the vault. No lights, no signals, just a perfect cube the size of a city floating inside death. Ronan suited up, not in Dominion black, not in Rebel gray, just plain armor, no insignia, no lies. I'm going alone, he said. Kel stepped forward. Like hell you are. Ronan grabbed his shoulder. Kel, listen to me. If they see you, they'll use you against me. You're leverage bait. You think they don't know about your father in Sector 8 or your sister on the mining colony? Kel's face fell. They'll twist you until you break, Ronan continued. I trained them to do it. You want to help, then stay alive, stay out, tell people what happened here. He turned to Rusk. Get this ship out of orbit the moment I enter the vault. No hesitation. Rusk frowned. What if you need extraction? I won't. Ronan stepped into the shuttle bay and entered a single-man pod. It hissed shut around him like a coffin as he launched toward the vault. The atmosphere turned thick. Green storms flashed across the surface of the gas giant below. Lightning danced like cracks in reality. The vault loomed ahead, still dark, still waiting. The pod slammed into the structure with a deafening clang. Ronan stepped out onto metal as old as empires. He passed through doors that opened without sound, as if the vault knew him, as if it had been waiting. Inside it was cold, steel walls lined with cryocells, thousands, each one containing a still figure shaped like men but not quite. Pale skin, neural ports in the spine, no emotion, no dreams, the architects. Ronan walked deeper, his boots echoed through the silence of death. In the center chamber stood a throne, on it sat one figure alive, awake, watching. You came, it said, The voice was metallic but unmistakably human. Of course I did, Ronan said. I built this hell. The architect stood taller than Ronan, built like a predator, but its eyes. They were Ronan's eyes, cloned, replicated, cold. We've evolved, it said, and now you must die. The doors sealed behind him, no escape, just fire. Ronan raised the last rites. This time, he whispered, I'm not running from the monster, I'm killing it. And he charged into the darkness.